Tamer, we'll start with you. What's your first sports memory?
My first sports memory, I'd have to say my first sports memory was the Mets winning the 1986 World Series. And I actually, there you go. All right. And I actually regret the moment a little bit because I didn't appreciate it. I was only 7 years old. And I was like, oh, the Mets won the World Series. That's great. This is awesome. And I didn't really take it in because it's been 25 years since they won. So I probably should have enjoyed it a little bit more than I did. But that's my first sports memory, and I wish I had savored it a little bit more.
All right, Danielle, what's your best, not your first, but your best sports memory?
I'm a Penn State graduate, so I would say seeing Joe Paterno break all the other coaches' records and winning more games. Did I hear a boo out there? Because I'm not trying to hear boos about Penn State. But I guess I was there for the Penn State-Ohio State game my junior year when Joe Paterno beat all the other coaches and has the best record, which no one else is ever going to touch.
Danielle, growing up, did you have a favorite sport that you played?
I am one hell of a spectator, let me tell you. That's about it. I'm good at volleyball because I'm tall, but I'm a really good spectator.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Somerset, right down the street from Rutgers.
Okay. Tamer, same stuff.
I loved playing basketball. Unfortunately, the only thing I had was an outside shot. Couldn't really do anything else. Slow feet, not very fast. And now I don't have an outside shot, so I really got nothing going on. But I still love basketball, so that's really my favorite sport to play.
Who's your favorite athlete?
My favorite athlete? It changes. Right now, I'd have to say it's Eli Manning. I'm a Giants fan, so that's one reason why. But I also like the way he carries himself. I think he's an upstanding guy, a guy that stays out of trouble, a good leader. And he obviously gave me, up till now, the best sports moment I've had, and I actually appreciated it this time, was the 2008 Giants Super Bowl victory.
All right, Danielle, do you listen much to WFAN?
I do, mostly when you guys talk about the Yankees, though, because that's my team.
Who's your favorite host on FAN?
You know what? I don't want to get crucified for this, but I do like Mike Francesca.
Oh, that's
I do
okay.
like him. See,
That's
I got
okay.
one person clapping for me. I do like him. I know a lot of the Mets fans hate on him, but I like listening to him.
Okay. Well, let's get going. Tamer, you're up first. You're on the clock. You'll get 2 minutes to go, and let's hear from you.
Good evening, everybody. This is Tamer Chamma, WFAN, broadcasting live from Jamian's bar here in beautiful Red Bank, New Jersey. We got a great show for you tonight, a lot to get to. The NFL lockout is finally over. We finally have some football to talk about. We'll get into all the free agency craziness a little bit later on. We'll also talk about the Yankees a little bit later on as well. But I want to start with the Mets, and I have a question for Terry Collins, for Sandy Alderson, and anybody else associated with the Met organization. Why is Jason Isringhausen still the closer of this team? Now, the Isringhausen story has been great this year. He's come full circle. He's playing for the team that he came up with more than 15 years ago, and he's pitched well. First as a seventh inning guy and an eighth inning guy, and now as the closer of the team. And if it was 1995 and he was still in his early 20s, I would have no problem with Jason Isringhausen being the closer of this team. But the fact of the matter is that it's 2011, and Isringhausen is 38 years old and one step away from retirement. The Mets need to give Bobby Parnell a chance to be the closer of this team, see if he's the closer of the future, and if it doesn't work out with Parnell, they need to give Pedro Beato a shot as the closer. Both guys have good stuff, especially Parnell with his plus 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and we have to see, along with that stuff, if they have the mental toughness, the mental fortitude to be a closer in the major leagues, because that is half the battle when it comes to being a closer. The Mets traded K-Rod away 2 weeks ago. At that point, they had 2.5 months to see if they had a closer of the future in either Parnell or Beato. They've already wasted 2 weeks. They need to, and I encourage them to, make Bobby Parnell the closer starting tomorrow, give him a chance, see if he can do the job, and if after a month he's not doing the job, then give Pedro Beato a chance and see if he can be the closer of the future. We're going to take a quick break right here, come back on the other side, and get your thoughts on the Met closer situation. You're listening to WFAN.
So, Tamer, last week, Terry Collins, when he was on with Francesca, said basically Beato is not going to be a closer, and Bobby Parnell has been relatively ineffective. The Mets are 51-51, so isn't there an argument to be held that the team still needs to win some games and have some fans, and you want to go with somebody, and maybe they could even get something for Izzy later on?
I agree. I mean, if he gets traded, I think one of those two guys will definitely be the closer. And the record is pretty good at this point, but they have no chance of making the playoffs. That's really the point at this time. They don't have a chance to actually make the playoffs to do something this year, so they need to start looking towards the future. They're trading guys at the deadline. They've already traded K-Rod. Beltran's probably going to be going soon as well. So if they're going to look towards the future, they have to give one of those two guys a chance to close games, and they've both been effective for good stretches this year, so I think they deserve a shot, both of them.
All right, let's switch gears and talk a little bit football. Obviously, players came back today. The Giants with a couple of moves, releasing Rich Seibert and Sean O'Hara. What do you think of what they're doing early on?
I think it was time to rebuild that offensive line. We'll have to see how they're going to plug in guys for Seibert and for O'Hara. But that offensive line, it was still a good pass-protecting offensive line last year. Eli Manning didn't really get sacked a lot. But the running game did struggle at times. It was ineffective at times, especially in the fourth quarter. So I like what they're doing so far. And I like the signing of the Boston College linebacker, Herslick. That was a good signing. I know he struggled with cancer over the last couple of years, but he was obviously a very talented linebacker up until that point. Hopefully he's able to deal with the cancer he's going through and is able to go out and be effective, because they need a linebacker in that linebacking corps. That linebacking corps is not great right now.
On the Jets end, with 3 wide receivers out there, considering Brad Smith being one, what do you think they'll do? What do you think the outcome of this stuff will be with them?
I think Brad Smith's important to them, definitely from a return aspect. I mean, he had a huge return, if we all remember, in that Indianapolis Colt game, the wild card game last year, that really was the reason why they were able to win that game. And he also is a guy that runs the Wildcat formation for them at times. So I think they'll re-sign him. I think Santonio Holmes is definitely the game breaker in that offense, so they'll definitely look to re-sign him. I think the odd man out's going to be Braylon Edwards at this point. If they can't sign all 3, that's going to be the guy that's going to end up going, and I think they'll be okay for it. There's a lot of explosive players still on that offense, and I really think they need to re-sign Holmes and definitely Brad Smith.
All right, Tamer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Danielle. Clock will be reset here in a second. Whenever you're ready, you're on the clock.
All right, so in 1985, I was 4 years old. Let me let that sink in there for a second, okay? That year, the Royals won the World Series, and they should thank Don Denkinger, send him lots of thank you cards, and the fact that there's no instant replay in baseball. So I've seen Don in a lot of interviews, and he says that he has a painting of this famous safe out call. And the reason he has this painting is to remind himself that people make mistakes. Okay, Donnie, well, that doesn't give the Cardinals the World Series, but hey, thanks for that. Now, in 2011, we still have no instant replay because, God forbid, we mess with the charm of baseball. What is so charming about a team working all the way to get to the World Series and losing it because of human element? Shut up already with your stupid charm and put instant replay into the game. And there are so many arguments against instant replay. And my favorite and the lamest argument is, you're going to slow down an already slow game. Screw that, all right? Instant replay in every other sport. You watch it, you see a bad call, it's instant replay. Those 2 minutes, you're on the edge of your seat. You're talking to the person next to you, you're making bets, you're listening to the radio, and that game can go down in history based on an instant replay. If that's time that you don't want to spend, don't sit next to me at a game because you're lame. Go get your Bud or your Miller Lite and your skirt and get away from me. I don't want to sit next to you at my baseball game. And how exciting would it have been for the instant replay results with Armando Galarraga last year, okay? Mr. Perfect Game. Next day in the press conference, Joyce says, I made a mistake. Again, another oops, my bad. Doesn't give him a perfect game. You need to bring instant replay back in. I'm tired of hearing the stubborn argument of it messes with the charm and it's a human element. It's broke. Fix the system.
Are you talking about full instant replay, partial instant replay?
No,
what
I think
what
you
are you
need
saying?
instant replay, not with like strikes and fouls. You need it with out and safe. You need it with fair and foul. You can't do strikes and outs. No.
All right, let's move over to football. Give us your take on the end of the lockout and what are you expecting from the Jets and Giants. Try to be a little bit specific about some of the players.
All right, well, I guess the first thing I have to say about the lockout is if anybody's surprised that it was going to be over, I wasn't all that shocked when I saw that it was going to end because it's a millions and billions of dollars, so obviously the lockout was going to end. What do I see that's going to happen this year? I'm a Giants fan. I'm tired of listening to Rex Ryan. I really wish he would shut up, though it didn't surprise me today that he, of course, now guarantees that they're going to the Super Bowl and they're going to win. okay, I know that worked in Super Bowl III for you guys, but it's a couple years after that, and I see the Jets always trip up at the finish line. They really do. They gear it all the way up, and then they get to that playoff game, and they choke at the end. That said, I am a Giants fan. I wish I had a little more faith in Mr. Manning, though, because he's another one that chokes a little bit. So I have to say I'm nervous for both of the teams this year.
As far as the Giants go, a big question for them is whether or not they're going to be able to re-sign Ahmad Bradshaw. What are your thoughts about that?
I think they need to re-sign Bradshaw. I think they're going to have a problem if they don't. Their team is really scattered, and that's what I think you saw last year is there wasn't any chance of getting your hopes up for them doing anything. They weren't collected. They just seemed all over the place. There were sloppy plays, false starts, just college stuff that you were seeing with the team. So Bradshaw's kind of an important piece of the puzzle. If you don't have him, I think you got a big hole you got to worry about.
Where do you think Plaxico Burress will wind up? Not jail.
Hopefully without a gun license. I don't know where he's going to wind up. That's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, what he did was stupid. Does that not make him a good football player? No. So I think they got to keep that in mind. He's still a good football player. It's not like, Tiki Barber needs to be back on the team. It's Plaxico. He's a good football player. He just did something stupid. So I'll be interested to see where he winds up.
All right, Danielle, thank you very much.
Thank you.